All right, what's up, everyone? We're back with our fifth episode of the Benchwarmers Breakdown
Mhm.
podcast. We got three or two new guests and two returning guests. I'm Adam. I'm sure you all know who I am. Um, Kevin, you can introduce yourself.
What's up, man? Just enjoying these finals. Been great.
Yep. We have Madi and Mo.
What's up? How you been?
Good, good, good.
Yeah, great to be here. I'm excited, guys. Sports is my life, so when I get to do it on a weekend, it's always great. It's always great.
Indeed, it is. Indeed, it is. All right. So the first topic I want to touch is just the NBA Finals as a whole. Um, as of last night, the series is tied up two apiece. We saw a great fourth quarter from SGA, and I just want to hear your opinions. Take it away.
Let the Thunder fan go first.
Oh,
Let's see,
really?
let's see how
Okay, yeah.
stressful it has been.
I guess I'll start. It's been a long time coming for this Oklahoma City Thunder team. I mean, you talk about the fourth quarter specifically. I think the one person you have to talk about is obviously the league MVP, Shea Gilders-Alexander, right? I believe it was 15 points with two stocks, getting it done on the defensive end as well. You know, I don't want to say he's kind of scared me. Like, you talk about Mark Dagnall's defensive philosophy. It reminds me of the way the Bucks used to play defense back in the day. We're gonna make you take perimeter shots. We're not gonna give you anything inside from mid-range or closer. And the Indiana Pacers have been able to make Oklahoma City pay, specifically as it comes to the Thunder's defensive rotations. And I constantly watch Shea. He scares me a lot of the time. He's indecisive. He's not closing out to the corner when he has to split to the difference, or to the wing when he has to split the difference. But again, he's able to bring it on offense. And I guess that's just the trade-off you take with the league MVP, right? So that's been one thing that I've been looking at him, and he comes out with two big stocks and steals. I mean, like he's getting it done on the defensive end when it matters most, and his offense has risen at well. There's been times where even when he puts up big points, you wonder whether or not is Shea really going to be able to lead this Thunder team all the way. And I think the fourth quarter yesterday kind of was the implication that, you know what, he might be able to get this done. This Thunder has been through thick and thin. That Nugget series almost felt like a NBA Finals to me because, like, Nikola Jokic is the best player on the planet, right? Shea's my MVP, but Jokic is a different animal. And to get over that hump being down 2-1, I was kind of comfortable going into game four. And Shea Gilgeous-Alexander kind of gave me that insurance.
Yep. Totally have to agree with you, even though I'm not a Thunder
Yeah.
fan. But
I think that this series has always been it's been amazing, but I think a lot of it has to do with the Thunder's others aside from Shea. I think we've seen it, especially in games two and four, the two biggest the difference makers in those two games was Shed. We saw in that game two, he had a really good burst in the second quarter to build a sustainable lead that eventually turned to a blowout. Then you see in game four, that fourth quarter, that defense has been awesome. Other than like one time, Hallie crossed him, but even then it ended in a miss. So I guess you could say kind of a good difference maker on defense. But aside from that, that was a really great fourth quarter defense from Chet. I am a little bit worried when it comes to Hartenstein, because I did not feel like he was at all great, especially in game four. But like in games three, he didn't look all that great, and we saw um, Mark Dagnall make the adjustment to have him start, and we see Hartenstein just get absolutely destroyed on the pick and roll. He was dropping too much. He was pretty slow on his feet. Thunder's defense also looked pretty slow as a result. And against this Indiana Pacers team, you can't have a slow defense, or else you'll just get crushed immediately. So I think that that was the biggest difference maker. I'm not saying that Hartenstein is a complete bust in the series. I think he can still make an impact, but that's going to be something that at least I'm going to be looking forward to in games five and six. Um, I think as far as Indiana, it's always been a team effort, right? You see in game one how it was essentially the whole team before Halliburton made that shot. He didn't look great in that game at all until he made that final shot just to win them the game. But it was all you had Nemhard with that crazy cross on crazy handles on Shea. In game three, you had an explosion from Benedict Mathurin. Ironically, he was also the reason why they lost yesterday, which was just in embarrassing fashion. You had TJ McConnell, who was absolutely phenomenal in that game too. He was really making every single play you could possibly think of. I just think that this series is going to come down to the others showing up. How because I think Halliburton has truly figured it out on both ends of the floor. He didn't look perfect in that fourth quarter, but just compared to games one and two, he looked great. I don't know if it's an Indiana effect or just him figuring out the defense. I think it's a mix of both. Game five will really be the tell-all for Hallie in this series. So I think Hallie and Shea, I think they'll be fine. It's a matter of who's going to step up for the Pacers in Oklahoma in Game Five. Is it going to be Shea? J Dub, he really needs to show up. He has not looked great in this series, in my opinion, especially in Games Three and Four in Indy. He looked kind of scared in most instances. I thought in Game Four he figured it out. He was getting some really good driving lanes, but then as the game went on, he did not look as perfect as it was. It was really on Shed and Shea closing that game out. So that's something I'm very much looking forward to. And this is an amazing final, so I hope we continue to see it progress through. I hope we get a Game Seven. I think it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, totally. Just to piggyback off of what you said, I think it's really important what the bench pieces are the most important, right? I think in game
Yeah.
two, OKC had what, 15 plus scores. That's the first time in NBA Finals since 2019. And I think in game three, what Indy's bench outscored OKC's 49-18. You know, it's the battle of the benches and who can turn the ball over more. What defense is more stifling, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think Thunder has like a deeper bench and like better team, but in terms of their team, Chat has to step up as like he's kind of seen as like the next kind of face of the NBA. So he has to kind of do better to kind of lead the team of Thunder to win the finals. And from Pacers' perspective, I think everything kind of drives off Halliburton in a sense that he's kind of the main guy. If he's like starting off slow, the team's doing really bad. If he's doing well, the team's doing well. So I think he has to figure things out going forward. But otherwise, I think it's going to be a good series. Pretty much like based off like who makes the most mistakes is pretty much going to lead to who wins.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a battle of the clutch, right?
Yeah.
Yesterday
Yeah.
we saw SGA took over the fourth quarter, but game one we saw Indiana do their thing with that devil magic that everyone calls it. Then you got the Halliburton game winner. So it's just late game execution,
Yeah.
and the bench and who could win the battle of the runs. Right? Every NBA game is who can stop the run, who can stop it, and who can match it. Right? I think OKC is great at weathering storms. Ironically, but everybody thought that this NBA Finals was going to be boring because there are two small market teams. But I actually think this is one of the better NBA Finals that we've seen in the last 5 years, 6 years. Even this in the 2020 era. Yeah. What are your opinions on that?
Yeah, if I could jump in and talk about that point specifically, I mean, like there's a difference between like I know we sit here almost as analysts, like we're in a different space than just the regular casual fan. So if you see Oklahoma City and Indiana, what does Oklahoma City have? Like Buffalo, and Indiana's like a hard working town. I imagine a bunch of factories, but Oklahoma City won 68 games. Indiana Pacers are maybe I'm trying to think of like maybe the Cleveland Cavaliers, maybe the Thunder themselves, like one of the deepest teams in basketball. They run a 10-man rotation. Forget everything you know about the NBA rotations in the playoffs. They're not going to be seven guys no more, right? It's so many different guys on this Pacers team that could kill you, and they're fun as hell. If you love basketball and you just love competition, you're gonna love this NBA Finals. Adam Silver, I believe, compared it to like the Packers and Steelers Super Bowl. I think that was back in 2010. The Steelers were all their history. The Packers were all their history. Lombardi and Joe Green on the other side. If you love basketball, you're gonna love this series. And this series has been
Yeah.
shaping up to, much to my dismay, because I'm a Thunder fan, much to my dismay, to be very, very competitive. And I would like it to end in six games. The sooner the better in our favor. But I'm here for it. I'm here for it because more than I am a Thunder fan, I'm a basketball fan. So yeah,
Yeah.
keep it going.
Um, Honestly, I never really cared about the small markets because I think winning shows all, right? We like even that's why I thought Adam Silver had like a weird example to use with the Packers and the Steelers because like sure they're small markets, but their history was so vast that like they're branded franchises. They're not like small market teams that just happen to make the finals. No, they're just fantastically ran organizations. We're talking about two teams that's been the best two teams of basketball since the turn of the new year. I saw that. I knew the Pacers had a turn. I didn't know they had that big of a turn, in their record. But listen, I didn't anticipate the Pacers being much of a matchup for the Thunder. I thought how they garnered against the Thunder defense was going to be a big tell because, like, I saw in the first three series against Milwaukee, against the Cavs, against the Knicks, I didn't really see those three as talented or as connected defensively as the Thunder. So I thought, oh, this Thunder team, they might just wipe them off the floor because of that defense. I severely underrated them. I thought it would look a lot different, but you always see it. In the first two games, I thought it was going to be exactly like that. In games three and four, they looked like the more superior team. Other than that, fourth quarter that the Pacers let get away from them. So I really hope the Pacers don't live to regret that, because that would be a crushing blow, especially for a franchise like Indy. They're gonna have to go into attacks eventually,
Yeah,
because apparently this is like the first finals in a long time where neither team is a tax team. The
Mhm.
Indiana Pacers, I feel like, are going to fall more victim to the tax in the CBA than the Thunder will. So I I just think that game four is just one they let get away. As far as like the finals in general, this is the best finals we've gotten. 2020 series, this is easily the best finals. We're talking, I think the closest we can get is the 2022 series, maybe 2021, but like even then, we're talking back and forth, especially how the Pacers have looked. And honestly, a lot of it has to do with the fan atmospheres. We gotten the two best fan atmospheres in the entire 2020s. All of them wearing their shirts, white for OKC in game one, full blue in game two, full yellows in the last two games. The atmosphere is really built it up. And I hate people are talking about like, oh, what about the finals decal? The crowd has a lot to do with it. So I think that involves itself as well. And yeah, I just think that, you know, I at least severely underrated the Pacers, and as I have been the entire playoff run, I'm paying the price for it. So we'll see how it goes.
yeah. I mean, from like, I guess finals perspective, no one kind of expected Pacers to be there. Was going to be either was going to be like what Celtics on Thunders pretty much, or Celtics Nuggets. That was kind of what everyone kind of wanted. Just the fact that a team that doesn't have a, I guess a star. They have Hallie, but like not like a superstar. A team that pretty much is like kind of ran by role players. They're stepping up, doing things that are not expected of them. So I think that kind of plays into the story of the fans kind of rooting for them and kind of leading the finals to be really good. Every game as well like has been pretty close. Versus like previous years, it's been pretty much blowouts. So I think that kind of is like leading to a good final series that we are seeing so far.
Yeah. Back to what I said earlier. I actually think this is the best one that we've seen in the 2020 era. And I actually don't think any one of the NBA finals kind of compares to this, right? What last year we saw a 5 game series. The year before that, was it five again? What with the
That
Denver
was a
one 2 years?
superior
Yeah,
mismatch. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. The closest one I think has to be the Warriors against the Celtics. But my Celtics went down, so I can't rank that one. But
That was a Steph Curry masterclass. Aside from like
yeah,
one game, but like that was a Steph Curry masterclass the entire series.
I really hope that this NBA Finals, I hope it goes to 7. I would love to see it go to 7. We haven't seen what an NBA Finals go to 7 since what is it?
2016.
2016.
Yeah,
Shit, yeah.
2016.
2016, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really hope this
We
one goes to 7. And to your point, Kevin, you mentioned that these two teams have the best fan bases. It's so great to watch. Unfortunately, we have to listen to Mike Breen and, well, not Mike Breen, but Doris Burke. Unfortunately, we have to listen to her. But it's great basketball that we're seeing, and I unfortunately it has to end at some point, but I don't want it to end. But yeah, I, I think we can kind of highlight the Pacers run now a little bit. How do you guys feel about this like dark magic kind of run that they have?
Can I say this? Can I say this? Because I think me and Adam, we share a group chat with the rest of our fans, and they're I won't say that they don't go to the top floor when it comes to basketball. What I will say is this, right? The Indiana Pacers basketball team, and this is what's so scary. They might not even be the best team in the East, right? I think a healthy Cleveland Cavaliers, like in my head, basketball math. You say Ty Jerome and Max Strus are what Aaron Neesmith and say maybe Andrew Nemhard are to the Pacers. Like the Cavs also have those guys, but then they have two All NBA members, right? One of the best defensive teams. The Indiana Pacers had to get there defensively. The Cavs were kind of already there with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen and those dogs on the perimeter. But to give credit to the Indiana Pacers, again, they got better defensively. Six guards that they could throw on Shea with Nemhard. Neesmith is really like a 2-3. Ben Shepherd's played a lot in this series. Like they're deep. They could shoot the ball. They're the best shooting team throughout the playoffs. Halliburton is, I mean, like he's not a transcendent star. Like it's not like LeBron or Kevin Durant where boom, he's straight out of college and you see it, right? He's already dropping big numbers. It's more like well, he doesn't play like Steph, but it's more like Steph Curry where he had to get to that point. He had to build himself up to that player. It's not pretty. Like he can't break down his man into half court. He doesn't have a pretty handle. His jump shot is awkward, but everyone elevates around him. And everybody plays for each other when he's on the court. He operates like a role player, but when the moment comes, he's there and he's hitting big shots. I said before the series started, this is going to be 7 games. That Indiana Pacers team, fastest pace of play last year. I think they were the number one offense last year. And they add Pascal Siakam, another scorer in the front court. Like, this team is dangerous. They're deep. And even if they hit the luxury tax, as long as they have Tyrese Halliburton, along with Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner, whoever it may be, they're going to be here for a very, very long time. Oklahoma City was never winning this series in 5 or 6 games.
Um, I'll say this about Hallie. I saw this one stat that I thought was interesting, and it proved itself in this series too. That Hallie, when he makes his first shot, he's infinitely better, efficiency wise, scoring wise throughout the course of the game. But if he misses that first shot, all those efficiencies drop. I don't know like what the specific difference is. I just know it was like significant enough that it's just like you can tell. And I think a lot of that has to do with him being aggressive. In this game, in this series, he had to learn how to be more aggressive off ball, which has worked very well in the last two
Hmm.
games. But even in previous series in this playoff run, Tyrese says um, he's too unselfish for his own good at times, and nothing really wrong with that, right? Because you're talking about an Indiana Pacers team; they can all beat you off the dribble. You don't expect Aaron Neesmith to just drive into the paint and get a good look, either for himself or for somebody else. You don't. You're not going to say no to Andrew Nemhard. You're not going to say no to Pascal Siakam. Siakam has been the main guy scoring for them, especially in the ECF and Cavs series. But Hallie, I think he needs to be a lot more aggressive because his playmaking is always there. Nothing will always fail about that. I think he's just consistent with like 6, 7 assists a game. But if he can get a little more aggressive, scoring the ball, which we've seen in the last 2 games, we're seeing the best version of Hallie. And I think that's why people don't label him as much of a superstar as we don't, as people want him to be, because most other superstars, they're aggressive from the jump. They're always going to look for their own shot. Hallie doesn't do that. And because he doesn't do that, his superstardom kind of flies under the radar. So I think that's what we've seen throughout these playoffs. Either he's aggressive and he's going to have an explosive scoring game, or he's not as aggressive and we're not going to see as big of a scoring game from him. And at least in this series so far, it has significantly swayed the Pacers' way if he is more aggressive. Awful on ball. If he's aggressive, if he's finding his own shot, he's going to get himself a good game, and that's what the Pacers need from him just to stay in the fight. Because we saw in game one was not pretty for the Pacers in the beginning. It was like a bloodbath, honestly, from the jump. Um, the only thing the Thunder did wrong in that game one was the fact that they didn't convert on a lot of those turnovers. If you converted on those turnovers, we probably don't get that magical moment where Hallie makes that amazing shot at the end of the game. So as far as the Pacers run as a whole, this is who they are. You think they're out of it, and they come back in it. That's we've seen it in the Bucks series, we've seen it in the Cavs series. They don't look like the best team in the world at most points, but when it matters most, that's when they turn up, and that's the kind of run they've been on. This is probably like one of the more magical runs. I don't want to say since 2011 Mavs. I'm trying to think of another team that's probably had a more magical run than this. The closer probably the Miami Heat in
You
2023,
think the
but
2019 Raptors even like
Yeah.
to get over that hump?
uh, but they were like a top team. They weren't like a team that nobody anticipated to beat. People just saw how good the Bucks were and were just like, yeah, but I don't know about the Raptors, but
I guess. But yeah, the Pacers
um,
play a full 48.
yeah, you can't get off them. And it was funny seeing on my timeline, Jake, being majority Celtics fans, just everybody saying like, "Oh, we tried to warn you, we tried to see," and that was a team that wasn't even as polished of a Pacers team as we see now. So I just think that that's something that um, we're going to celebrate about this Pacers team, whether they win or lose this finals. That still remains to be seen. But I think this is going to be a very just one of those fun teams that you're gonna reminisce on and say like, damn, they really made the finals. They really did all that. Um, and yeah, like you said, Madi, I hope they stay for a long time because this is a really fun team. This is an amazing team, and if their development and scouting continues on, you may not have to go into the tax again. Maybe you'll find another one or two bench pieces that can fill the roles of people who are going to look for bigger contracts. So that's something I'm very excited for.
I actually think that they have the whole team coming back next year aside from Miles Turner, if I'm not mistaken, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of big too because they've been on what two deep finals or two deep NBA playoffs runs as a full team, and a lot of people underlook Rick Carlisle's coaching.
Yeah.
He took that 2011 Mavs team. Of course they had Dirk and Jason Kidd on that team, but he took them to the finals, and he outcoached Eric Spoelstra in the NBA Finals, in my opinion. And he did it again last series. When even this NBA playoffs run, outcoached the Bucks, although the Bucks weren't as good as we thought they would be this year. The second round, he outcoached the Cavs easily, but the Cavs are second round merchants, so you could look at the Knicks series, and I just think that the Knicks just got completely outcoached, outplayed in almost 9 out of the 10 aspects of the game. So I think this playoff run is definitely, we can define it as magical, right? I don't know if we'll see it again. I mean, I'm sure we'll see it again by some team. But yeah, the closest thing that we can compare it to, Kevin, is probably Miami Heat if we're looking at the 2020 era. But beyond that, from what we've seen, the 2011 Mavs. Yeah, that's what I have to say. So we'll move on to the next topic then.
Wait, Adam, really quickly,
Yep.
really quickly. What I'll say is, you talk about Carlisle's coaching. Don't forget, it wasn't just those early, like in the 2010 years. He built that '04 Pistons squad that won the championship, got fired, and Larry Brown got to take over and basically reap the rewards of what he built. So he's been here for a very long time. Dagnall, as brilliant as the X's and O's guy as he is, like this is his first time around the horn. Right, Carlisle has been here for a minute. It does not phase him. He's a veteran in this game. That may be the difference.
True, definitely true. And what do you guys feel about? Well, obviously, Pascal Siakam's a very big role player in this. I don't know if he's a role player. I would say he's more of a 1B option now, or maybe a 2, a true definition of a 2. But he's big. He's been big in this playoffs run. How do you guys feel about Pascal Siakam's contributions to this run?
He's a veteran. He's done it before. We saw it in 2019. He was their second best player during that run, at least up until the finals when we saw Fred VanVleet take over. This was, you just can't count on Pascal Siakam. There are very few players that can truly lock him up, and we haven't seen any of those players been able to do that throughout this playoff run. I think that, um, like I said, because Halliburton is so unselfish and just so much more of a primary playmaker for the team, that you need a guy like Pascal Siakam who can score off
Yeah.
uh, with pace, who can score just driving into the paint or even set up on the post up. So I think that like I said, he's been here before. He's done it. He knows what it's like with the Raptors. He's kind of struggled with them throughout the since that title run, but once he got traded here, he got settled in, got a full year with the Pacers now, and he's reaping the rewards. I do think we saw it in that ECF. He was just absolutely dominating the Knicks. So you know, I don't have too much to say on him. So, Pascal, he's been great.
It's always fun to talk down on the Knicks.
I mean, like, yeah, Pascal, like Pascal, I believe 2019 in game one, he won them game one of that finals. I remember vividly. He dropped 43, I think it was, where he had like a
Yeah.
big 30, low 40 game there. And it's just business as usual. He's usually efficient, excellent bones, like naturally, like his frame, tall, 6'9", long arms, long legs, run in transition. He could hit a three, which has gotten better. He could defend. Um, Again, and this is the type of team he thrives on, right? That Raptors team was so deep with the same names as you brought up. Fred VanVleet, who showed out. Kyle Lowry was on that team. Marcus Gasol, different guys. And now you have this Pacers teams. Shout out to Ben Mathurin. You couldn't play him 2 playoff series ago against the Cavs, but here he is balling out 27 the game before. You got guys like again TJ McConnell, and look, he's thriving in it, and Halliburton just gives him the space to be himself. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Pascal Siakam, we know what he is. Whether he's a 1A, 1B, or a two, he works the best as a two. I'll say he's a 1A, 1B, right, depending on the circumstance. And I think that's exactly where you want him. And the Indiana Pacers have made a roster for when they traded him. Again, there was a bunch of teams that should have traded for Siakam. I thought the Warriors should have got him because Steph Curry was dying by himself, but the Pacers just slid him in, and it's been a well-oiled machine since. So, yeah, Spicy P, I think his nickname is, right? So, yeah.
All right. With that being said, we can move on to the next topic. How do you guys feel about Tyrese Halliburton? Players in the NBA have called him overrated, and a lot of critics have called him, he's not a superstar. He's just a role player, or maybe like on his way to superstardom. How do you guys feel about Tyrese Halliburton? And do you think he's overrated, underrated, just right? And do you think he's a superstar, or is he on a superstar on the rise?
It's because again, Adam, I'll say this, I'll just kick it off. I'm sorry for talking so much. He's not a transcendent superstar. Like it's not immediately in your face, right? That was Kevin Durant, that was LeBron James, that was who I think even to a degree like Vic. Like as soon as they came in the league, like they're dropping, but Jordan, of course, they're dropping buckets. You see it immediately. They're an all-star by their first, second, or third year, and they're just gonna set up to be. No, it takes time. And Tyrese Halliburton, there's a reason why he's in the Eastern Conference Finals, and there's a reason why he hits. You think he's hitting game winners by accident? His game is not pretty. Like I think it was Austin Rivers say, I'd rather have LaMelo Ball. That's because LaMelo Ball is trans. You see the handle, you see the flashiness, you see the crazy passes, you see the wild shot attempts that go in. Halliburton is not that, right? He has maybe hesitation in his repertoire. He can't take his man off the dribble because he's not particularly fast. He tries to beat them with top end speed, but he's not the fastest. He pulls out his dribble constantly. He's crab walking, which I would describe his handle to be. He's not an woefully talented, skillful basketball player. But when you talk about a guy who does the things, who can do the things he's good at really, really well and just keep doing those things. Heavy pick and roll, moving off the ball. When he gets into his bag and where he's comfortable, he's an excellent basketball player. Again, that Pacers teams allows him to play off ball a lot of the time where he could just find his spots, or when he's on ball, he running go actions, get actions, whatever it is to attack what he's good at. You could say maybe he's Steve Nash, right? Steve Nash is 6'2", wasn't the best crazy, but when he's comfortable doing what he is, running and finding his spots, he's excellent. He's just as good as anyone in the league.
Yeah, just to
Yeah, I mean,
pick off of, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say like in terms of like him being a superstar, I think he has potential. I think he just has to be on the right system. Like Maddie mentioned, he's not necessarily the craftiest player. Doesn't have the best handles. He has a good shot, but it's weird and slow. But it works. But he just knows how to run the offense. I think that's something that many people or fans appreciate from a basketball perspective. I think in the current like kind of moment where everyone wants a Kyrie, everyone wants a LaMelo Ball, but I think running an offense, knowing how to play basketball can lead to someone being a superstar if they're kind of playing it around their system going forward and just keep on doing that consistently. So I think he has potential. I think he just has to pretty much do what he's doing going forward.
I mean, my thing with a superstar is that I think it's kind of changed how a superstar is conceived throughout the 2020s because we're seeing, especially in this finals and the last few finals, it takes a group effort. It's not so much more of a do you have the best player? Obviously, you need the best player in a series to win, but it's become less relied upon. You're looking more on is your worst player getting exposed as much as he can be? You know, you don't see that with the Thunder or the Pacers. You see that with the Knicks. You see Josh Hart was the weakest link on the floor, and because of that, it was too easy to expose him, and it was, he was basically unplayable throughout that series. And because of that, I think the definition of a superstar is slowly changing, in my opinion. I think that Halliburton, like Madi said, he's not a transcendent one. He's not a LeBron. He's not a KD. He's not Steph Curry who's going to take the ball and just make magic happen for you. Um, Hallie is just, it's too much in the system. And I'm not saying it's only on Rick Carlisle for why Halliburton has been as great as he has been, but it's because of the system that Hallie can do everything that he does at such a perfect level because his teammates aren't complete liabilities on the floor. Because his teammates aren't complete liabilities, it makes him transcend himself into an elite superstar. It's not the same in a sense like a Jokic, because Jokic, he is the system. No matter what you do to him, we saw it in that Thunder Nuggets series. The entire Nuggets supporting cast was just like, they were in and out, very inconsistent. You never really know. Jokic was just, he's always going to get you something. Hallie, you may not always get something for an entire game, but when the moment arrives, that's when you need to make magic happen. Hallie has done that, but he's not a traditional transition superstar in terms of from start to finish. He's going to absolutely take the ball in his hands and just dominate the ball. That's not what Hallie is. That's not how the Pacers offenses run. And because of that, we don't really see that respect. I think overrated is a little bit too far in that because like I feel like we need to see that short list of players who said Hallie was overrated. Reporter has his own morals and ethics that he can't release it, but I don't care. I want to see that list. I want to see who labeled him as overrated.
That's
And
Yeah, I
true.
But
think
yeah,
like yeah. I was gonna say like in terms of regular season, like he was playing like super bad. So I guess where people are coming from, like he was not doing really like he was like doing really bad in regular season games. But right now he's just kind of proving himself that he is that guy or he could be that guy. So that's kind of what I'm seeing from him at least.
To your point, Mo, Halliburton steadily improved throughout the years, right? His numbers, like if you look at his regular season numbers, I think it's what 17, 8, and 3 over his career. I think he's made an All NBA team, maybe once, not like the third team, I think. But that's pretty average, right? For like not someone that we would call like a superstar or someone that's like up and coming on the rise. Actually, I would say up and coming, but not those numbers don't really scream superstar to me. But if you look at his playoff performance and his finals performance, you know, 18 a game in the playoffs. He had a triple double against OKC and sorry, a near triple double, right? I think he was one rebound away. In the conference finals, he had that historic triple double with no turnovers, right? And I believe Magic Johnson mentioned this on ESPN, right? A superstar is someone that you want to go watch, right? I think that a lot of people are wanting to go watch Tyrese Halliburton now and this Indiana Pacers team, right? Because they can play 1 through 5, they can switch, you see different players step up and rise to the occasion, but the face of that team right now is Tyrese Halliburton, and people are wanting to see that. Same thing with I wouldn't say SGA right now because the whole foul baiting. Sorry, Madi, I know you take a little bit offense to that, but but there's other players in the league, right? I'm not gonna compare Tyrese Halliburton to Steph, KD, and LeBron, and he's not on JT's level yet, right? Because some people they go to watch those players. And I'm not saying this from like a Celtics fan point of view, right? Like I'm saying like some people they go to watch Jason Tatum. They go to watch LeBron, right? Hands down. Anytime LeBron, the Celtics, the Warriors, they come into town, ticket prices they skyrise. And I think Tyrese Halliburton is getting to that level where I think he's just rated. He's perfect the way he's looked at and rated right now. But if he is able to elevate his game a bit and stay more consistent, I think that he is a superstar on the rise and that he's rated fine just right now, but he has the potential to be someone like that could be the face of the league.
kind of like what you said as far as like ticket price, as far as like you want to buy tickets to see this player. Like I said, winning fixes everything as far as like how an image looks, right? You're looking at Hallie before last year. The Pacers didn't have that much of a deep run in the playoffs, right? I think as far as they went, maybe the first round they've gotten to, but even then they were missing the playoffs. They were in and out. They never really made it to the second round. Then in 2024, you go to the Knicks, you beat them, you make it to the conference finals. Hallie goes down, so you couldn't really see how far that Pacers Celtics series could have gone. And even then, the Pacers were still neck and neck with the Celtics in those two games at home. Who knows if Hallie was there, maybe that would have been a longer series. Then you're seeing this year going on a magical run, winning, especially in the playoffs, is going to elevate your popularity to another level. So, people are saying he's not a superstar. I don't think it's because of his play. It's because you just haven't seen it enough, and we're seeing it these last 2 years. He's been amazing. I think he can be a superstar, especially with his improved defense throughout the course of these playoffs.
Exactly.
You know, before last year, like if we were talking last year, Hallie was like horrendous on defense. It was easy to target him. It was easy to just exploit his defensive weaknesses. In this series, especially in the finals with the whole world watching, his defense has been very, very solid. It's still not great. This is not a he's not a lockdown defender. I don't think he ever will be with his build, but he's not like a complete scrub out there. He's making good reads, he's making good plays. Um, and he even notices it himself. I think it was after game two where he was like very in depth on like what went wrong on the defensive end, and I was like, that's the kind of stuff you want to see, from a superstar. So as far as Hallie being a superstar, I think he'll get labeled that this summer. Win or lose this series, unless he just completely stinks it up these next two games, which I doubt he will. But like, if he doesn't and he has like a valiant performance, but to end off the series, win or lose, he's going to be viewed as a superstar. People will go and buy tickets for him. So I think it's, even for Magic Johnson, I think that's a weird label to put on the guy. But then again, you're talking about Magic Johnson. He became the superstar he is just because of one playoff run where he won Finals MVP his rookie season.
Rookie.
Um, he was, from then on, he was essentially a superstar. So winning cures all, and that's what Hallie is doing right now. The same will happen with SGA after this series. Win or lose, you know. As far as the foul merchant stuff, I think that's more of an online thing. I don't think that it's. He takes advantage a lot, but like for me, foul merchants are more like an Embiid. Someone who's super reliant on the free throw, on the foul baiting. Shea isn't that. So I don't think, and we saw it last night. I don't think that he was essentially a free throw merchant.
Just real quick to add, Kevin, you said that winning takes everything, but I also think the way you win is everything as well.
Yeah.
Look at this, right? I think he's had a game winner in every single series of this playoff run, right?
Yeah.
At the buzzer or almost at the buzzer. So a lot of kids, even I have a little brother, a lot of kids are like, "Oh my God, Tyrese Halliburton, he's hitting clutch shots." Right? It's crazy. It's great to see, and I think that's what makes him not on the rise to be a superstar.
I will say, you talk about Kevin not being a defensive liability. I saw about two sequences. I think it was at home. I think it was game three where he put the clamps on Shea. Like he's moving. He's never going to be an elite defender, right? He's awkward offensively with his dribbles, and you could tell he's awkward defensively. But 6'5", 6'6", long arms, long legs. He could be a disruptor on that end, like something like he could be as good as your weakest link can possibly be. And I mean, like the mindset's there, the character is there, the way he approaches each and every single game, I think is there. I mean, like again, a superstar, a superstar is a guy who gets buckets. A superstar is a guy who wins you basketball games. I think SGA is 1,000% a superstar because whether or not you like him, you're talking about him, right? A lot of people don't like Tyrese Halliburton, but you're talking about Tyrese Halliburton for a reason because he could ball. I mean, these two, they're going to be here for a very, very long time. Tyrese is here to stay, ladies and gentlemen. Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
To add to your point, Madi, you said SGA is a superstar. Now let's transition to like a little bit of a different topic, right? Let's say that that I know you're not gonna like this, but let's say the Oklahoma City Thunder happen to lose this series as the favorite, right? And SGA doesn't, his almost 40 points a game. It's not enough against these dark horse Indiana Pacers. Do you think it tarnishes his legacy at all, or puts a blemish on his resume?
I swear to you, this is not my Oklahoma City Thunder fandom. I don't think so, right? I think at 26 years old, like the season that he had, I mean, like, he's in that unique space where you still recognize that he's a superstar, but there's that question, can he truly lead a team to a championship, right? I don't think that's penalized guys in the past. I think we've asked that point, well, not us, the last generation asked that point about LeBron, where you can isolate his personal greatness, but then you wonder whether or not he could be that number one guy, he could ever lead them to a championship. I think Shea will be in that space if the Thunder lose. Knock on wood, they will not, because league MVP, Western Conference Finals MVP, first team All NBA. Like there was a point throughout the season I was like, can Shea make an All Defensive team? I think that was me wishful thinking, but Shea was playing really really good defense. He's one of the best like like of this like Giannis, Jokic, and then I think it's Shea at this point. He's the best two-way guard because of the good defensive guards who's giving you 33 points a night. I think he'll enter that unique space, but will it tarnish his legacy? I think all guys like entering their prime go through this phase where you got to appreciate the sun. No, you can't appreciate the sun if you've never been through the rain. And I think that's where Shea will be. I think he'll be fine. He just has to capture it. If it's not this year, he's gonna have to eventually capture it.
He'll be fine. You're talking about a guy who's effortlessly carried the Thunder throughout the course of this playoff run. We saw it last night. That was the superstar performance for Shea. Sure you could say, oh, he's getting these points for his free throws. He's not doing so great. Yesterday in the finals, probably going to go down 3-1 if he did not do that.
Yeah.
He balled out of his mind. I don't think anything will stay. Like I said, same with Hallie. He would have to have a really bad end to this series for him to not be considered a superstar. But even then, MVP, Western Conference MVP, he is really good out there. People are talking about him as a free throw merchant. I just don't see it. Sure, some of the stuff is silly. I saw one in Game 4 where he kind of got trapped and then he kind of tried to flail out. I'm just like, all right, Jay, that's a little out of hand. But like I saw one from last night where Neesmith was like holding his hand on his shoulder, and then that's when he lifted up. I'm just like, well, that's on Neesmith. Why are you putting your hand on his shoulder?
Thank you.
Because the point of a foul is that at any moment he could rise up and shoot.
Thank
Um,
you.
but that's on the free throw merchant stuff. But even then, he has, especially in this series, it's been proven. If Shet and J Dub do not show up in this series, Oklahoma are more than likely going to lose. It would have to take a best in the world like Jokic type of performance to bail them out of it. Shet and J Dub has to be good uh throughout the next 3 games, 2, 3 games. If one of the two doesn't really show up, you're not gonna have a good time. And Shea, I'm a little worried about because of that weird ankle sprain. Because last night he was playing on adrenaline a lot. We'll see how he feels by Monday. I hope he feels good because he was a true difference maker during that game, and that's why Shea was able to continuously hand it to the Pacers defense because he knew Shea was in this game. He even told Shea when he got injured, "Yo, we need you. Get up." So yeah, I don't think there's any blemish on Shea's legacy. Obviously, he's a little bit older than most superstars. I forgot. I don't know how old he is. Like 28,
26.
probably.
26,
26,
yeah.
26. All right.
2027.
26. All right, then he'll be fine. I do think, as I don't think it's a blemish on him, but I think it will be a blemish on the Thunder if they don't win this series because you're going 2 years off of first seed Western Conference performances only to lose in series you shouldn't be losing in. In the Maverick series, the Thunder couldn't win. And if they don't win this series, you're talking about the biggest upset in NBA history, in modern NBA history, because it's just like you should not be in this kind of position to lose the finals against the Pacers. No matter how people may think about the Pacers now, in hindsight, but at the time you're talking about they should watch this team. Obviously it's going to take more effort to win, but even then, this is like as a team, the Thunder will be looked at very differently if they don't come out this series with a championship. But Shea, I think he'll be fine. It's more on Shet and J Dub to come out with a win, to get the wins. Shet got them 2 wins. He needs to get them a win, because you can't just rely on Shet to be the second guy every single night. Especially with a sprained ankle, you can't rely on him to be perfect these next 2 games. So that's my thing with the Thunder and Shea. I don't think Shea is in any going to be any worse of a position unless he just
Yeah.
performs terribly these next 2 to 3 games.
Yeah, I think like he's still young. He's still 26. He has like years to go to like improve further, and he's still dropping 30 points a game. Um, like 7 assists a game as well. Like he has those numbers. He knows how to perform, and he's just going to get better. Even if he loses the series, so I think he's from a superstar perspective. He's there, pretty much. So he just has to like over time. He's obviously going to win if he doesn't win this one. So I think nothing's going to happen to like legacy in that sense. I think going to Tyrese as well, going back. I think a lot of people don't see him as a superstar is because he doesn't drop 30 points a game. It's like 20 a game. So I think, you know, that's interesting to kind of see from my perspective at least.
Yeah, just to pick off of what you're saying, labeled as a heavy favorite, right? Anyone that's labeled as a heavy favorite, if they lose in the NBA Finals, obviously everybody's going to talk about it. People are going to make up storylines and say that his legacy is tarnished. We saw it with Jason Tatum and the Celtics and against the Warriors, right? Um, but still, SGA, he's the MVP, right? That's one step in the right direction towards his legacy. So you can't go back and say, oh, him losing the NBA Finals is, even though it's against the Pacers are still a good team, and I don't think it tarnishes his legacy. And we've seen this with other superstars, right? LeBron lost his first two NBA finals, even though he was pretty young. He still lost his first two. Jason Kidd, he lost his first NBA finals, and I think that the Miami Heat lost against the Rick Carlisle coached Pacers. Rick Carlisle coached Mavericks in the NBA championship. So, I believe Tim Duncan and Dirk also lost their first NBA finals as well. So, how it relates to Tyrese to SGA. Even though heavy favorites, everybody wants to point their fingers and say that you need to win this series or else your legacy is tarnished. I don't think losing as a favorite tarnishes his legacy. He's made the right step in that legacy direction, and he gets to his spots. He can score. He plays pretty good defense, not insanely bad defense. But yeah, I don't think that a loss tarnishes his legacy at all. All right, we can move on to the last topic. I'm sure we're gonna have some fun with this. Uh, the Knicks NBA Finals. Yeah, the Knicks. How do we fix the Knicks? They just fired Tom Tibbs. They have questions around who should they hire. I believe they're 0 for 4 on requesting interviews. So, how, how would you
Well,
fix the Knicks, or how would you start fixing the Knicks?
first of all, start actually looking for good coaches because you're looking for coaches that are already in good situations. This is like, I saw someone say this is like going into happy homes and trying to break them up for no reason. It's not even coaches that are just like in weird situations. Jason Kidd, I get it, right? Because you don't know how Jason Kidd feels after that Luka trade. But like, why are you going after Ime Udoka? He's in a very good situation. Why are you going after Chris Finch? He's in a good situation. I don't know who else they tried to request and they got denied, other than those four. But like,
Billy
you're going after
Donovan.
coaches. Him too. I mean, maybe because the Bulls are kind of ass, but
And then
even still, you're going after coaches for yeah,
I think it was the Hawks coach,
Quinn.
Quinn Snyder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, him too. Yeah. Like it feels, I get it. I saw someone say that like most of the time teams are going to poach other teams for their coaches, but that's usually assistant coaches. You don't think about them poaching head coaches of their teams. If you're going to poach somebody, go to the Cavs, get what was his name, Johnny Bryan. He's been with them their whole rebuild back to a relevant franchise. Get Johnny Bryan. Maybe he might be interested to coming back to the Knicks. Um, but also just look for like new coaches. I heard they're looking for Taylor Jenkins and Mike Malone. Mike Malone is probably an interesting get if they can get him, because I think that he can implement a similar system that he did with the Nuggets into this Knicks team to be more offensively sound and just shooting up more threes. Because apparently they were like bottom three, if not bottom three, definitely bottom half in the league of 3-point rates. And I thought that was just really weird, especially for Karl Anthony Towns, who plays more better as a 5 out big, you know. Um, so as far as coaching, just look for new coaches. You saw it in a lot of different head coaching spaces. They're going after some new guys. Toronto hired a newer coach. They're not getting veteran coaches. You're looking at um, the Celtics, they went after Ime Udoka, who was an assistant coach for a very long time. They got Joe Mazzulla from the back three rows of the coaching staff. To get good coaches, you just have to understand the system that they're implementing because it's not as easy as, all right, here's a veteran coach, fix my team, please. Right now it doesn't feel like they have a plan. Maybe they do, and the media is just blowing it out of proportion, which I'm not going to count that out as a thing. But yeah, as far as coaching, I don't know. If you're gonna fire Tibbs and act like this, you might as well have not fired him. You know.
Kev, do they actually have a plan? This is typical New York Knicks because, like, okay, right, Adam, I direct you back to our group chat again. Too many Knicks fans in that group chat. Um, what I like. I actually, even if you bring in an, because I see a Mike Malone situation, right? Astoria, New York. He's been a championship winning head coach, and I think he fits the ethos of that Knicks team. But intrinsically, is that going to make Karl Anthony Towns a better defender? Like, much of the same reasons I thought this Knicks team would lose to the Celtics, they just lost to the Indiana Pacers based off of those same reasons. A pick and roll duo of Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns is one of the worst defensive. Like, if that's your main set, the pick and roll is the entire league. Your main set, and both of them are bad defenders, you're going to get exploited. We all know Karl Anthony Towns as a five on the defensive end is not good, and Jalen Brunson's 6'1", and he's not a good defender. Like, bringing in a new coach, like, what does that do? I think Thibodeau was the wrong coach. Yes, plays his starters too many minutes, doesn't change anything. Like, all the things we thought about Tom Thibodeau, they were true. He was definitely the wrong coach for this team. But I mean, like, it's gonna be the same old Knicks. Here's what I would do if they were the Knicks, because I hear them in trade talks too. I do nothing. You made the Eastern Conference Finals in your first year together, even with all the problems. See what you have behind the starters. Play those guys. Make them build cohesion. Thibodeau, there was a lineup that was working. I think it was the starters with McBride subbing in for Jalen Brunson. He played that. He didn't play that lineup all throughout the play. Like, see what you have, play a full 10-man rotation throughout the regular season, and make another run. This is classic Knicks. They're trying to take everybody's wives again with the head coaches, which makes no sense. Like, stop panicking, calm down, and just go through another complete season of a more cohesive basketball unit. Get another head coach in there, like an assistant who's been on the team, who's long tenured, who's veteran, like maybe addresses your woes on the defensive end, and just play basketball. Here they go panicking again. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded for Kevin Durant. I really, really would not be. This is the
Can
Knicks.
they? They don't have picks.
Oh, they're gonna make it work. Tsunami style. They'll give up three starters for Kevin Durant. They're insane. They're insane. It's the same old.
um, yeah. I think the only guy I would think about trading is Josh Hart because, like I said, you can't have like that bad of a weak link on your team.
Yeah.
Josh Hart feels like that.
They
He's
threw Karl Anthony Towns under the bus. I saw the report off of Central, not Central. They've been frustrated with him on the defensive end, and the lack of communication, getting over pick and roll, like throwing the guy under the, like, come on.
Just
that feels
just
more
to speak
communication based than
Yeah,
his own incompetency. To be honest,
just to speak to that whole coaching thing, right? I just think it's kind of weird and a little tough. The Knicks put their front office in a tough situation by firing Tibbs because they're in the middle of a championship contention run, right? And firing your coach in the middle of that is very difficult to come back to and try to get the same results or even better, right? So we'll start with the conference finals. Let's say they hire another coach. Do we honestly think that that coach can get them back to the conference finals in their first year? Not only that, do we think that coach can get them to the NBA finals in their first year? Let's say they don't trade away for their they don't trade away their core and they keep the same core, right? Getting a team to adjust to a new coach, it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes a lot, right? And I honestly just think that the firing in the middle of a championship contention run, it just made it a lot harder for the Knicks to get over this hump, right? And not parade because they won a conference or they went to the conference finals, but instead elevate their team to get to the NBA finals or the next level. Now, I think for a coaching, like in terms of coaching search and fit, I think that they do need to bring in a better offensive mind to elevate the Brunson OG Cat spacing, right? Let's say we could keep Michael in that core, but I think they need an offensive minded talent to elevate that, right? And not just have the team watch Brunson try to force his buckets in the fourth quarter in the clutch. And also,
yeah, Madi, you mentioned that like
God,
yeah,
Yeah, I
sorry.
think that.
Um, Madi, you mentioned that like all the McBride lineups worked. It worked because Brunson it wasn't there to always save the day, so they kept the ball moving. The offense felt more cohesive. I don't think Brunson is like a total like I don't think he's a Luca type. where it's just like, oh, he's terrible off ball. He can't do nothing without the ball. I think Brunson can definitely do stuff off the ball, but in I saw a report that they were apparently not running any scrimmages during practices. But I'm just like, this is weird. How you can't test the cohesion. You're just like, oh, Brunson, here you go, take the ball, save us, you know, um, and it didn't work. We even saw that with the Celtics. It felt very much this year. Here, Tatum, take the ball, save us, do something. Um, so like you said, Adam, I think an offensive minded coach, one who can actually put together an offense, uh, even just with the regular starting five, right? What was it? Brunson, Hart, OG, Mikhail, Cat. You need an offensive mind for that lineup. One that can actually run sets, run plays, who could be able to get Brunson off ball, in actions, off of actions. Because it didn't feel like that, and I don't, I don't think that they should have beaten the Celtics, but I also don't think that they got there for no reason. It's kind of just like, oh, it's both of their faults. Um, as much as the Knicks deserve to be in the ECF, it's as much as they didn't deserve to be in the ECF. They looked outplayed basically the entire series against the Celtics, aside from like deep runs in the fourth quarters. So I don't know. I think the Knicks trade Josh Hart, get some good shooting in that lineup, and then actually utilize the bench. Part of a good coach is good development. Learn how to develop your bench throughout the course of a season. If you find out halfway through the season you can only play seven players, all right, so be it. You need to garner wins, but that's what the beginning of this season is all about: just developing players, developing your benches, developing rotations, and that's what we've seen. And that's what we didn't see from the Knicks. They were playing seven-man lineups in the beginning of the season. You're just like, well, why are you doing that? You're pushing these guys to their limit in November. You're trying to make an ECF run, and you're doing this. So I think that's something that the Knicks just really need to
Can
focus
I
on.
say this? May I interject? Adam, you say like, can a new coach even get them to the Eastern Conference Finals? I will say yes, not because of the coach, but because this Knicks team is talented. Like, I wouldn't be surprised next year if we ran it back and it's Indiana and New York back in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, depending on if the Cavs stay healthy, maybe if the Pistons get better, if Orlando adds something in their backcourt. But I think the Knicks and the Pacers are probably your best bet to see it next year in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks are a very talented basketball team. Like, they're just good off the strength of that. But it's like, Brunson's not getting rest within the offense. Again, you guys talked about he has to go get his shot being picked up 94 by like this elite defender. Carl Anthony Towns, it's the same actions. Like Mikhail's fine. Like he's just fine on offense. Like they don't use him enough to set up Jalen in the half court. Like Josh can't shoot. Like this Knicks team is it's I don't know. It's it's like headache. Just headache. Just headache. Just run it back. Calm down. And you know what? Thibodeau did make a fantastic. I thought the best adjustment he made was playing DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet instead of Campaign. Right? They took Campaign out of the rotation, gave the minutes to DeLon Wright, Landry Shamet, and it kind of extended your shelf life. Right? DeLon Wright with the defense getting to the free throw line, Landry Shamet hitting big time shots, but ultimately you lost in six. But it's like just more of anything. Stop panicking and figure it out. It's gonna get better if you just don't nick it up. Don't nick it up. That's it.
One wrong move away from going back to the dark ages of the Knicks franchise.
Yeah. Do you guys think that they need to make some trades, or like do you think Cat needs to be gone? Do you think Mike Cal needs to be gone, or do you think they could run it back with the same team? I
How
obviously
do you even get rid of
they
Mikhail?
need bench pieces, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
but what do you think the next move is in terms of
Get
their core?
rid.
How do you get rid of Mikhail, Kev? I mean, like you give 5 first round picks. Brooklyn is having a beat reporter for the Nets this year. They're having a street party and they're trolling Knicks on Twitter. 5 first round picks and I think a pick swap. I think it was. You can't get rid of Mikhail. Like OG's staying. Like OG's too good. You don't trade. You don't get rid of Cat. Like that's the
Yeah.
wrong move to make.
And his contract is too big for
Too
that.
big. 61. I think he gets in 2 years now. JB's your guy. Josh Hart. What do you realistically get in a package deal that headlines Josh Hart? Like I don't know. I don't know.
The easiest one is Josh Hart. He's too weak of an
What do you
offensive
get?
player. Oh
It's
no,
not even that.
but like I said, he makes 19 million next year. It depends on the pieces you target, because you're not always going to get the big guys. I think I saw a report that Trey Murphy is going to be what,
That'd
like
be
a
right.
big star, young piece, but like, I think he's the same similar archetype as OG and Mikhail. So you just need another secondary ball creator. Um, Cat, as good as he is on offense, he's not the guy you give him the ball and he'll run plays for you. You need a
Yeah.
guy who can run plays. Um, so I
Lonzo.
think that's what you should target. Lonzo maybe
Yeah,
because he hasn't his value's kind of tanked a little bit.
Hmm.
But I think that's the kind of guy you have to target. With Josh Hart.
Yeah, I think the asking price for Trey Murphy is like insanely high. I think the Pelicans asked for like a vet that can contribute in the playoffs, a first round draft pick, and then a role player for Trey Murphy. So I don't know if the Knicks can pull that off, but yeah, I don't know if this core that they have right now with Brunson, Cat, OG, and Bridges can take them to that next level, right? I just don't think Cat is the a true second option in the playoffs, especially when it comes to the playoffs, right? Minnesota tried it and it didn't work. And to be honest, he shied away when they played the Mavericks, and he was in foul trouble like I think 4 of the 5 games, so he couldn't even be played down the clutch. Um, this year, he kind of got to show out a little bit in the conference finals, but I just don't think that he is a true second option for a team. Maybe I think shipping OG while he's on the rise, he's like a rising talent still. I think shipping him and getting like a true second option might be something better for this Knicks offense. But then again, it just all comes back to who they hire as a coach and how they can formulate this core to take them to the next level.
well, I think the main issue is like they don't have any offense. Pretty much iso ball when it comes to like clutch situations. And Jalen Brunson is not that. From my perspective, I don't think he's that good. I just think he's like skilled in a sense, but he's not like that guy. He's a fall baiter. Like he doesn't know how to like actually play basketball, from my perspective at least. So that's what I think, and that's why the Knicks lost.
And what makes you say he's a foul baiter though?
Every, every time he goes to like the right side, he bops his head, and then throws the
God,
ball up. That's like what he does. That's not basketball. That's not how you play basketball.
so
If I'm
funny.
if I'm just saying, like, if you're someone out there who's a casual fan and you watch Shea and you're like, man, I don't like the way this guy like gets calls. Let me tell you something. I got a guy in New York who maybe flop for flop, who might be where I'm just saying. I'm just saying. This is not my Thunder fan. I got a guy in New York. Let me tell you something about him. I'm just That's just me though.
I'm so grateful that we didn't get an OKC and New York Knicks NBA Finals. Oh my God, that would be
Stop,
so boring. It would just be
stop,
foul baiting on top
stop,
of
But
foul
Shea,
baiting.
Shea,
stop.
but Shea's good though. Like he could like shoot threes. He could like do whatever he wants. Like JB's different. He has like two moves that he does. That's like left to right, then right to like head bop and foul. That's it. So I don't know.
All right.
Yeah, like I said, they need. I really, Jalen Brunson free throw merchant. I don't know. I think that just overall, you got to. I don't think. I think the best chance they had was last season for the Knicks because I felt like their defense was a lot more concise than it was. Um, Getting rid of that and then still having some offensive holes. OG, he's not like a guy you want on offense. Cat, same thing. You don't want to. He's not a guy on offense. He's not a ball. He's not a shot creator. He's not going to make good plays. He's not going to consistently provide you with the good shots. Yeah, Knicks are in a weird spot. Weird spot. I think that, and I think they do need to make moves because they're going to scapegoat Tom Thibodeau. This next coach better be one hell of a coach.
All right. Well, Madi, did you want to add anything before we finish? Or?
I mean, yeah, I did like last year's team too. I also thought that that team had a cap. Like, I don't know how much more I like Julius Randle than say or Carl Anthony Towns. I think Cat is certainly more talented. I think Julius Randle, they describe him as like a bull in a china shop, right? But it was a more cohesive like offensive unit. You felt Dante DiVincenzo, I think hit what the third most threes in the league. He was having a career year. Almost won them a game in the playoffs by himself where he dropped 35 on the road. I mean, like, definitely a more a cohesive team. I think if you're the Knicks in that moment, it would be hard for yourself not to justify trading for Cat. Like it's Carl Anthony Towns. I mean, like again, I'm not low on this team. They could be back in the Eastern Conference Finals where anything can really happen. All it takes is the right shots in the right moments. I mean, like they're not completely out of it. They're certainly one of the best three teams in the East. I mean, like I just don't want them to panic. Like I grew up in New York my entire life, and all they've done is panic and everything is panic, drama, and hyperbole with the Knicks. Like, don't mess this up. You're on the right track. It is okay. The house is not on fire yet.
Yes.
We're gonna. It's the same GM, the same owner as we saw during the late 2010s, during that dark era. So who knows? Is this just a blip? Was Jalen Brunson just a lucky signing that of everything, or I don't know. I
All right. Well, I'd like to thank everyone and thank you guys for joining the fifth podcast. And hopefully, we'll get you guys back on here again. And I enjoyed this. Thank you.
All right.
well,
All right. Thank you.